Batman Gargoyle of Gotham issue 1 by Rafael Grampa. And so this is an early days Batman story. It's set about a year after he became Batman. And it's very much Batman who's still in his grim and gritty phase, who, one of the big plot points of this issue is that he's actively planning on killing off Bruce Wayne, as far as the public are concerned.
Yeah, Batman's going to kill Bruce Wayne, so that's all he can exist. And I was like, sir, let me tell you, man, that's a bad idea. Zur-En-Arr, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, this is not doing Zur-En-Arr stuff. This is tapping into that classic Alfred wants to keep Bruce Wayne alive because he sees the value in Bruce Wayne, and that Bruce, him actually respecting his parents' past and who he is important to Alfred.
Yeah, he needs the tether to humanity, and that is Bruce Wayne.
So, yeah, I quite enjoyed this. I think I don't like the look of the Batcowl in this. I will say that.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Me too. It's very, it's too broad and angular at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, it's very weird. It gives Superman, jeez. I'm looking at covers as we talk. It's giving Batman like alien eyes, like the big almond, and I just, but the rest of the art, like all the human faces, look great.
Really good. Yeah. The villain especially, and we don't necessarily know who the main villain is yet, but we have like a prominent villain in this issue. So Batman, the issue starts with Batman's tracked down a serial killer, or at least something connected to serial killings, to this criminal building, which is actually an illegal TNT like factory. And this villain, this guy who's obsessed with this old children's cartoon. It looks like an old Warner Brothers cartoon or something like that. But he looks very creepy. When we first see him, he's sitting in front of like a projector watching these old cartoons. But he's not necessarily the serial killer, or at the very least, anything he does here doesn't match the murder scenes that we find out about later. So we have that kind of Seven style murder scene like thing going on throughout, where Gordon goes to a crime scene and there's this body that's lying naked and it's got all these puncture holes in it.
Right.
All that stuff.
Lining up with like acupuncture stuff too. So like the person's getting stabbed in the back of the head, but they don't die instantly. They end up suffocating, but they can't move. It's all very dark and grim. Like it matches kind of Batman's, like his whole grim and gritty at the same time.
Yeah. But yeah, like when Batman goes to find this villain watching the cartoons, like he basically sees a bunch of the criminals that were working for him, like they've been killed. They've got like hammers sticking out of their heads. It's, it says the front page clearly says this is a 17+ book, and it is. It is quite violent.
Yes.
and bloody. I did love the panel of Batman doing the classic, like holding the cape up in front of the screen, in front of the movie that's been projected. Oh, that looked great.
Looks good.
So. Yeah, so they have a bit of a fight, and this TNT plant blows up. So that's the whole thing. So we're introduced to Gordon, and he's looking at the crime scenes and stuff. And the book from this point on basically goes down a couple of paths where Gordon is looking into... What was fun? So Batman's looking into this guy who's obsessed with the cartoons. Whereas Gordon's looking into the patients of this doctor who worked at Arkham. He was like a child psychologist who worked at Arkham, because that ties into the case as well. So he's looking into
cartoons.
That. Yeah. So they're both looking down these different avenues, and this cartoon-based villain also like goes after this producer who bought all of the old... I mean, we don't realize who he is in the scene. It's not until the next scene when Alfred tries to buy all the stuff that belonged to this guy who made these cartoons that we find out that, this is this producer guy that the killer was torturing. I shouldn't say the killer, because it may not be the actual killer, but the cartoon guy.
The cartoon guy, who's very... Everything in shadow, very, very dark and inky. So Bruce sends Alfred to go talk to the wife of the cartoonist, and then she reveals to Alfred, like, I sold everything to this other guy, and then you realize that was the producer, and he has all the rights to these cartoons. And
there's a little tease here as well that the cartoon was banned and stopped being shown because of a violent thing that happened at school, and she doesn't go into it. She's like, you're a fan, you must know, and Alfred can't like break his cover, so he just kind of goes, of course.
Deer in the headlights, sure, I remember that.
But it's like school desk with blood on it in this like quick little panel, and it's like, oh shit, what the hell happened? So there's all this going on. So Gordon's like trying to talk to the old cellmate of the guy who was behind some of this, and then Batman's looking into the cartoon villain guy, and he ends up at this factory which is full of all these like old like plushies and like stuffed toys of these old cartoons. It's like the warehouse that the producer owns, and the cartoon villain like jumps out and like we get, again, we're fighting, we get a car chase here. I won't go into it too much, but there's a whole thing here where Batman's been working on this version of the Batmobile, and it's got no windows, it's all cameras, and it does some.
It's got the blind. It's kind of like the blind box or something.
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's super fancy. He ends up saving a guy that the villain throws off a bridge. So again, there's a lot of good action stuff in the art, which is good. So yeah, but when basically, so the name we get, Dr. Charles Quinton, who is connected to like one of the crime scenes, I think, because that's where his name came from. Gordon's investigating him at Arkham and basically says, look, let me look at your records, because if another body turns up dead, we're going to blame you in the press for not helping us investigate it. So the big cliffhanger of the issue from the Gordon side of the plot is that Bruce Wayne was treated by this doctor. That's the big thing we end on, as Batman is fighting the cartoon villain guy separately. So I've not explained it very well, but I do want to compliment it for being quite intricate in how it's like it sets up two threads that Batman and Gordon both go and follow independently. Alfred's even getting involved in following one of them, and the way they're all kind of bouncing off of each other, there is a genuine mystery of it. Is like, okay, like maybe this cartoon villain is the person who did something violent at school once upon a time. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's the killer, but the crime scenes say it's not him. So who is the killer? There's
and the killer, the stuff that's happening with the serial killers that's killing rich people. So there's this rich versus poor divide. There's another character that gets introduced of she's not quite a reporter, but she's like a social media journalist, social media person, and she puts out this big anti-rich diatribe, and now the rich are bleeding everybody dry, so it's about time someone's bleeding the rich dry, and it's like, you can't print that. She's like, I already did. It's already out there in the wild, and stuff. And then so yeah, it's a very intricate story, with the art, which I mostly like, except for Batman and the cape and cowl. Yeah. So,
that's the only thing I like about art as well. I think it's a good murder mystery detective story, but also it's doing stuff with Batman as a character, of him, like, because obviously his arc by the end of this is going to be that he has to keep Bruce Wayne alive, right? Because he keeps saying to Alfred, stop calling me Bruce, start getting used to calling me Batman. Bruce Wayne's dead after I'm done with this case, like just all this stuff. Like that's clearly an arc that they're building up for him. And now you've introduced this thing where now Gordon's got a reason to go look at Bruce Wayne as one of the potential people involved. It wouldn't surprise me as well if all the victims are on this list. Maybe they're all people who were treated by this psychologist at Arkham.
The doctor.
Yeah, I mean that all makes some sense. So it's a really entertaining book. What are you giving Gargoyle of Gotham, Matt?
I'm gonna give it a 8.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's an 8. I think I'd probably go another half point if I liked how Batman's cowl and face looked and the costume. But otherwise, it's got a very good aesthetic overall, I would say.